Welcome to another edition of the Industry Insider Podcast, your promotional products podcast where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. I'm Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA, and I'm joined by three other lovely guests today. But before we get to them, just wanted to talk to you guys real quickly about Tervis. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tervis, but they've just recently added a stainless steel line to their whole product line about 2 years ago, and with the goal of being better than the competition by utilizing state-of-the-art custom 360-degree UV printing available in four sizes: the 12-ounce, 20-ounce, and 30-ounce. And they've also got a 24-ounce water bottle. They got a 5-year warranty on these things. They're 18.8 copper lined, vacuum insulated, 8 hours hot, 24 hours cold. Awesome drinkware. Honestly, the cup I just held up is the 20-ounce stainless tumbler, and it is my go-to coffee mug for sure. Drink out of that thing every day. So check them out at tervispromos.com. So joined today by, as I said, three other lovely guests. And first, we'll kick it off to Steve McFadden at Perfect Promotions and More. How are you, Steve?
Hey, I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been, we're winding down, hopefully the hot months days here in North Carolina, but we're hanging in there. So
Awesome, man. Glad to hear it. Meg, I believe she may be somewhat frozen and facing some technical difficulty. So when she pops back in, we'll kick it to her and just say hello. But
better than my Chick-fil-A parking lot last week, so I'm sure she'll get it back.
Yep.
What's funny though is that when I freeze, it's never with a face that's as attractive as Meg's. Like, she froze in the perfect position, and she looked great. When I freeze, it always looks like I'm having a seizure.
Fair enough. And that voice you guys just heard obviously needs no introduction, but just in case, Paul Bellantone with PPAI, the head honcho, the boss man. I'm going to make him nice and blushy right now. So Paul, you're tremendous. I really appreciate everything you've done for the industry, and your leadership at PPAI has been hugely beneficial to our industry. So thank you for the service that you've done and are continuing to do. And basically just want to give you a quick platform to sort of introduce yourself, say hi to everyone. If there's anything in particular that you wanted to cover from the PPAI perspective with the events of this year, would love to hear that from you. But ultimately want to just get to know you a little bit more as a person as well. So I'd love to ask you first and foremost, sort of how you heard about the promotional products industry and how you got involved with PPAI, and sort of what your background was before this.
So I'm gonna jump for a second. First, thank you for the intro. It is an honor for me to actually represent this industry. So anything that I'm in the association management industry, but I couldn't think of a better industry to run an association in. So, thank you guys for allowing me to do this. Jeff, nerdy news you need to know about. That is an incredible alliteration for today that we're shooting with. So, my background was in the trade show industry, and I'm sure we'll be talking about trade shows at some point. So, go backwards in time a bit. 1998, ASI entered the trade show industry. And the person who was running the shows for PPAI at the time went to ASI to start up their shows. So there was a vacancy here at PPAI to run the event. And I was in the trade show industry in Dallas, and I was doing a lot of traveling. It was with a big trade show producing company. And somebody told me about this great show here in Dallas that was, at the time the show was being run in Dallas, and I didn't have to travel so much, and it was an opportunity for me to run one show instead of running a group of shows. And in doing that, by the fourth or fifth or sixth year that I was doing it, I decided I really liked the association industry as much as I liked the trade show industry. So I branched away from trade shows, moved into association management. And as they say, the rest is history. It's been 20 years with the association now, 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, Stephen, what would you like to discuss today? I mean, obviously, there's on everybody's mind, I think, the way that you guys have handled the pandemic and moving shows and canceling events, and
Sure.
I've heard about the work that has gone in with the PPAI board and just the amount of action that's been required to do what you guys have done, and just would really like to give kudos to the board and all the work that they've put in this year as well.
They've been pretty awesome, actually. So we generally meet every 5 or 6 weeks with the board. We actually have a standing call every Friday morning
Wow.
that we focus solely on COVID related things. So not to mix up our normal association management and our governance stuff. Like if we don't have anything specific to COVID to talk about, we cancel that call. But this way we never have to go through that whole process of you need to give people 3 days notice and you need to have a quorum. So we have a standing call every Friday morning. Man, those guys are troopers. They're ready to go and they're ready to discuss really tough issues. Very proud of them. Very proud.
Yeah. That's
Well,
incredible.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't just go ahead and knock out the elephant in the room here, because if we don't ask it, we'll be blown up on Facebook. So as it relates to COVID related things, let's just hit it and get over it. But what's the news with Expo? Everyone's asking. They saw the news with CES. They saw the news. We can just bury that one and then move on to more fun stuff.
Yeah, hold on, Paul, if you don't mind, before we do that, let's go chronological, because there's a lot of events that PPI have and coming up. And,
yeah, let's talk about just the events lined up between.
So yesterday, Paul, Sage had their online virtual trade show. Normally, it's a physical trade show that they do in Texas, and this year they had to go all virtual. You were present. Can you share any feedback that you may have heard or seen from the show and how that went? Give us an update on that.
I think if you read social media, or if you're a participant, you might have been engaged in some of the tech glitches that they had. I think the demand for an event exceeded their capability to do that. I think they normally have 1,500 people or so at their live event. They had 6,000 or 7,000 pre-registrants for this event. And on the general session, I think we had 2,100 people, which is more than we get at Expo for a live general session.
Wow.
So I think the only analogy I can give to it is like having Expo, but with only one entrance. And I think they realized that, virtual doesn't mirror physical. But the feedback from those people who were able to participate fully was overwhelming. And I actually received a number of comments saying, tech glitches aside, it was really the first national type event. And you can watch people communicating in ways that we haven't done since February or March. So in a lot of ways, it showed the need for that platform. I know Sage is up to the task. They're a tech company. They'll master that. And we're excited to be using them for the virtual element of our Expo going forward, because one of the changes we made to Expo this year is we're putting a virtual element before it and after it. So yeah, they solved some of those tech glitches, and I think they had a pretty successful event, and people responded because we need that. It's kind of at the core of our industry.
Sure. And obviously with the fall season coming up, usually things are pretty busy with a lot of great events coming up from PPAI, and a lot of them have had to be switched to a virtual type of climate. So with the tech show or tech week and the tech summit this coming weekend, the 21st through the 25th, anything that you can give us there, or with Promotional Products Work Week, October 5th through the 9th, anything that you can share with us that'll happen differently with that? Well,
I'll just be honest with you. I manage your association. This is your business. I happen to be managing it. Guys, we're winging it. We're all trying to figure this out. It's that proverbial, we're riding the bike down the hill while we're assembling it. And you hope you have brakes when you need brakes, and you hope you have a steering wheel when you need a steering wheel. We're trying to figure out everything from what's the best platform to use for technology, and what's the right pricing structure for a virtual event, compared to a physical event, and what's the right amount of time that somebody's willing to stay on and actually, be engaged online versus physical. So we will continue to experiment. We will continue to try to figure out the best way to serve the industry. I like the opportunities that we have because we're not constrained to what we used to be able to do physically, right? To have a successful tech week or a tech conference, a certain number of people had to be willing to get on an airplane, leave their families, leave their businesses, and go travel someplace. And now the opportunity to grow those events is exponential. But is 5 days the right day, right time? Is it 2 days? Is it 3 hours? Those are the things that we're going to figure out as we move along. So we're searching for the models on them. Like even Spark, like something like our Spark event, our Young Professional, we decided we didn't want to make the event exactly the way it was when it was physical. So we're putting things out into the marketplace with the Spark brand all year long. And hopefully it'll capture people who wouldn't have been able to go, not just the people who were able to go in person, but maybe open that up to an audience we didn't have before. So
that virtual, the Spark conference virtually from home was actually done really well. I was pleasantly surprised with that. So kudos to the Spark work group as well for that, and PPI for the tutelage. But Paul, come on! I mean, you're saying that you're winging it and you're riding the bike down the hill as you're assembling it. You guys don't have a manual for operating an association during a pandemic?
Yeah, virtually with the office closed and everybody, it really is. I'm telling my board, like, I can't wait until this just turns into a regular old recession. Like, I know how to do a recession. I've done a couple of them before. The whole pandemic and I can't meet with anybody is really throwing, some curveballs at us, but
yeah,
trying to figure it out.
Well, the odd thing, because you say recession, the odd thing for me is that I noticed that it's really varying, and you guys just did a study as well, I think, for what folks have experienced through the first couple of quarters of the year and what their expectations are for Q3 and Q4. And I personally filled that out for our company, and I'm very optimistic with where things are headed for us. There was 1 or 2 months that were sort of down for us, and then because of the adaptation and the pivot, like we've been absolutely killing it this year, having the best year that we've ever had, and by far.
So you went into PPE.
Well, we can't call face mask PPE because they're source control, but yes.
Right. So I'll give you a bit of information on that, because you read the so 76% of our supplier companies did less than 10% of their business in PPE over the last 6 months. 55% did zero PPE. So what you're talking about is exactly what we're experiencing, is that these last 6 months have really been about haves and have-nots. Like, from a supplier standpoint, you were either in or you were down 78%, because that's the number that we've seen from suppliers that were selling decorated products. So we've tried to separate the PPE decorated versus blank, because I think the blank will ultimately find its own way into its channels. Like, we did a really nice job pivoting. It's what gets decorated that I would really count as our industry moving forward.
Yeah.
So, on the distributor side, I think the number is like 57, or actually only 17% of distributors sold no PPE. So on the supplier side, you have this big number where they didn't sell any, and on the distributor side, you reflected more of what your customers were doing. So haves and have-nots over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with those numbers. I remember come March, nobody knew what to do. Like, nobody knew what to do. We were all freaking out. Everybody was like, okay, we're gonna be back to work in 2 weeks. And then when we weren't,
Right.
What's happening? And I remember how excited I was to be able to announce that we were gonna be selling the first round of masks, those Bella Canvas masks. And I mean, I was so excited to be able to just do something and help, because I felt so helpless. And then, no good deed goes unpunished. So the next month and a half was just like, I don't think I slept.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody slept. Anyone who had access to PPE. I mean, it was just insane. It was really insane. But I think what we're seeing is it did start to average out in May and then June. And I think in June we had our best month ever too. And it wasn't all PPE, but I think selling PPE saved us. It really did.
Yep. So when I look at the Sage searches on what people were looking for last year, in April 2019, there were 0 PPE products in the top 10 searches. At its peak, I think 4 out of the top 5 in June were PPE, and now it's back down to 2 out of the top 10. So we could see it moving a little bit more traditional. people are still uncertain, but they are certain that they need to do business. So we're finding our ways back into people's businesses.
Exactly. And I think, I know I had put out a blast to my customers that the government put out the CARES Act, and there was a $13 billion grant that was given to the K-12 schools to buy PPE. So I was really excited about that. And I thought it was a great opportunity to get involved with not me get involved with my customers, but my customers to get involved and have something to sell, those who weren't selling it.
Right.
So we found there was another big push. And I think with things being so fluid, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, New Jersey, it was like yesterday or maybe Monday, I don't remember, it's still a blur. Governor Phil Murphy just announced that we were going to have high school sports, but I feel a lot of other states aren't, a lot in the Northeast anyway. And I was so excited because I have a senior this year who is kind of relying on a scholarship for volleyball, and volleyball, as you know, is a fall sport for the girls. So it's really,
Right.
It's hitting home here. I've got some seniors. I have a senior last year that was just given his diploma, basically, you know?
Yep.
I mean, so I don't know. We're hoping that the big push keeps going for PPE for a while, keep everyone going. I hope people do jump on board who haven't. Don't think it's going to go away personally, just by, unless becomes more and more political one way or the other. I think it's going to have a huge effect on PPE, actually.
Well, you look at the news, like in the last 24 hours, the three biggest conversations are ones that we never thought we'd have. We have a virtual convention. You have people, my son had his first day of school today in his junior year online, right? So we have schools open and closed. You have people complaining about the post office, is going to close and not be able. We're having conversations that there's no way we could have planned for. And I think all of our businesses, we used to have a level of certainty and you can plan for something.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like we're spending all of our time preparing for things, right? Because planning kind of assumes that you know it's going to happen, but preparing, it's that winging it. I have to be ready for a number of different eventualities that we never even thought about before. So,
hey, Paul, and I wonder if you could maybe comment on this as well. We're noticing now that the month we're in currently, we're seeing that our customers are a little bit scared to order just because of the uncertainty. Like in the past, 3 or 4 weeks, we deal with industries that are related to the universities, so not the universities themselves. But specifically, if you look at what UNC did last week, I don't know if you saw the news. They brought kids back for 6 days, and then they had some positive tests, and then they just sent them all back home. So it's then that happened at USC as well. Kids started moving in Southern California. They didn't even get to the first day of school, and then they told them all to go back home. So you've got different industries that are starting to order and then saying no, like wait, they're not coming back. And so I'm starting to see this this cautiousness from our customers, specifically as it relates to universities and sports, and where they're just deciding not to order because they don't want to waste, right? And I'm just thinking like that's kind of where we're at now. Like there's this really slow month of August where before it was really busy because it was all the stuff you needed. And right now it's just so much uncertainty. Is that kind of reflective across the industry?
I don't have the up to last couple of week research. I have what we got back, 3 weeks ago from our members, but I don't think that our industry is a lagging indicator of what people are feeling, right? And I think we're consistently going to be following that pattern. There's nothing that happens in our industry that's not, kind of a microcosm of what's happening someplace else. So the same uncertainty we have on whether or not we're going to bring people back or have a trade show or, do a sales call, every industry we sell into is as confused, if not more confused than ours. And I think that there's opportunity in that because it's, from a distributor standpoint, Stephen, you have the opportunity to solve challenges. When your customers knew exactly what they were doing and exactly what they wanted, you were in the procurement business. Now you're in the let's solve a problem business. Just because a school's not doing something physical doesn't mean that they don't need to engage students. Doesn't mean they don't need to engage parents. Doesn't mean that they don't need to raise money. all of those things still need to happen. You just need to help them figure out how to have that happen for them.
Like with promo.
With promo, absolutely. I mean,
because I see a lot of people redirecting to digital and coupons and things that are outside the industry. But
think about the value of a physical product mailed to somebody's house today compared to
absolutely. Yeah.
And I did the same thing. Like, and by the way, Meg, you were talking about uncertainties on like what you've got excited about, and it starts and stops.
Yeah.
Today, I sent out a note to my team saying that the office is going to be closed until January.
Mm.
But meanwhile, I had told them we were going to do it right after Memorial Day, and it was going to be right after Labor Day, then it was going to be right after the holiday. And then we just said, you know what? The increase in productivity is not worth the risk of, like, I can keep somebody safe here in the building, but they're going to stop for gas. They're going to go to a restaurant. They're going to do things that are putting them at risk, and I don't want a part of that. But that doesn't mean I don't need to keep my staff motivated. So we actually did something. I don't have one around here. We actually sent every one of the people on the team a puzzle at their house because everybody has time and they're looking for things to do. And the puzzle said, "Once upon a time, the world didn't end." Like, and it was this PPAI logo and it had kind of a word cloud. But we took a couple of pieces of the puzzle and we removed them before we mailed them out. And we had them waiting on everybody's desk.
Okay.
And the note card with the puzzle said, "The puzzle won't be complete until we're all back together again."
Aww.
But normally, if I wanted to motivate my team, I would drive a food truck up here. Like, so the way that we're motivating and engaging people is different. And I wasn't creative enough to do that because I would have bought everybody donuts. It was a distributor that came up with the idea for me. So that to me is the opportunity of, hey, my staff's not here, but that doesn't mean I don't need to keep them engaged and happy and loyal and working hard and thank them for working hard. So lots of opportunity to earn those margins that we like to make in our industry.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, so I've got a question for you. So I'm so glad that you mentioned mailing things out and sort of, recreating a way of promoting stuff, even though things are happening virtually. So speaking of things happening virtually, I know LDW this year is happening virtually. And Meg, I know that's probably one of your favorite events throughout the year when you were on a regional board, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where I met Meg. I know. I can remember exactly where you were sitting in a room. And I was doing a panel. And it was, I remember meeting you. You gave me some snarky comment about it was terrific. I was like, I like this person. Yeah.
And it's definitely one of my favorite events throughout the year since I've been able to engage with the regional associations. Stephen, you're new to an association this year. So my question for you, Paul, is how are you going to duplicate all of the food and the swag that we get at LPW and everybody's homes? Because poor Stephen is not going to get to experience an official LDW this year, and we need to figure that out.
Can you send me the food?
You know what? We're not even going to attempt. I always thought that we should charge for that event by the pound. Like, if we really wanted to raise non-dues revenue, we should do something. It's an amazing event. I think the core of your question, though, Jeff, is that we're not going to try to replace that. We're going to try to figure out what's necessary now, and why. Yeah. So we're going to save some money on food, but hopefully we'll invest it someplace else for the regionals and the attendees. It's a great event. It's one of mine too, because I actually get to sleep in my own bed here in town too. I don't have to be in a hotel for it.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, by the way, we have a really awesome special guest coming up in a couple of weeks by the name of Dan Nevins.
Ah, there we go. Our wounded warrior.
So I gotta really thank you for having him come on and do the speaking engagement last year at LDW, because I think he absolutely floored everybody, and really excited to have him on the podcast with us as well.
Yeah, he reached a lot of people in a lot of different ways. There's just the inspirational part of the story.
Yeah.
But man, if you spend a minute bitching about whatever your circumstance is, and then you kind of look and you go, wow, so here's hardship that somebody can overcome. For me, it was one of those things, let's put some stuff in perspective and really think about may be important at this point. Good get, though. I think he's going to be a great guest for you.
Exactly.
Excuse removed. Exactly.
100%. So, Stephen, I think we're at that point of the podcast where we could probably talk about your question now.
Am I free to ask now?
Yes, sir.
Chronologically, you're there now. That's it. So,
Paul,
yeah.
What do you think?
Well, yeah. What are we thinking?
I think we're going to run an expo until you're leaning right into my screen here, Meg. I feel like back up.
Come on, Paul.
You're in my space. You're in my space. You're looking at my notes on my desk.
Trying to peek to see if there's any information there.
We know the value of Expo. We know that it's a glue that holds the industry together. It's more than a trade show. It's this convention that we all go to. We know the value to the businesses, the individual businesses in the industry. We have some businesses, we all think about like the Headwear USAs and the S&Ss, whatever the companies are. You guys have resources to go to market, no matter what the market brings you. What the conditions are, you're going to figure out a way to do it. But most of the suppliers at Expo take 2 booths, 1 booth. It's their go-to-market strategy for the year. As Expo goes, the year goes. So we recognize the value to them. And then we recognize the value. This is our annual bake sale. It's a lot of money at stake for the association. It pays for all of those things that don't make a dime. It pays for all the food at LDW. So we're balancing that. And it's a little bit of a tightrope. And so our plan is to run the expo until somebody tells us we can't or we shouldn't. And I'm a free will guy. I think that there are going to be people who want to go to the expo. They're going to make that choice. The same, people are doing things. You can't dictate every part of what people are doing. So as long as, the city, the state, the facility can hold us, and we think we're not unnecessarily putting people at risk, then we will run Expo. So that's my official statement on it. We're going to have a virtual aspect to it before it and after it. We've restructured the event it's going to be a 2-day event. The hours are going to be longer. We're going to try to maximize people's time. We coined a phrase it called health fatality. We actually trademarked this, health fatality. And that's that balance between making sure that people are healthy and productive, balanced up against how do we make it like an expo, what people are coming to expect from us. So health fatality is what people will get on site, but it's also the process we're using to make these decisions. Ask me again in a week. I may have a different answer for you because that's the way our life's going right now. But as we sit here, we're planning an expo in Las Vegas, 2nd week.
Paul, I'm going to ask you a question like a news reporter and kind of spin the same question here.
Okay.
So did the news about CES?
My question.
No, I asked it earlier and Jeff shut it down.
I wasn't
did that go into? Has that been discussed as related to the decisions that you guys may be thinking about for Expo?
And or ASI pushing their shows back?
Two really good questions. So I'm not going to be evasive, but I'm going to give you an analogy. CES is such a different beast than us. It's hundreds of thousands of people. Sure. It's in 5 halls and a really large international contingent that wouldn't even be able to come into the country at this point.
Yep.
I think that managing an expo is significantly different when we're in one hall, 3 hotels, contained environment, 2-day show. So I would make the analogy that I know that there are certain regionals that are running events right now, and they're running live events. But if I canceled Expo, I think that regionals should still be running their events because they can manage them differently than we could. Just because we can't manage 22,000 people in a convention center doesn't mean that a regional shouldn't try to manage their event in a parking lot, right? So everybody has to look at their own things. ASI, I agree in a lot of ways with what they're saying and what they're doing, but they have a different mandate than we have. And, if I were to say tomorrow, I'm going to not do Expo, I have $4 or $5 million in liability that I would need to, but, if that decision kind of gets made for us, then we handle that a little bit differently. And I think the members would want us to handle this prudently and not make just a straight up business decision on it. You would want me to negotiate it in the best interest of our industry. So that's what we're doing. Okay, you know, ASI made some decisions about the first quarter of next year, but they didn't call their Chicago show until, you know, last week.
Yeah.
So they're looking at, you know, the places that they're doing the show and the people that they're serving, and we're doing the same thing.
Awesome. Meg, Stephen, want to be respectful of Paul's time. So any other questions that you want to ask before we head out?
You know, I had the question about the CES, but I think I know just by being on Facebook pages and seeing what people were saying, people were like, oh, CS is going to cancel, so is PPAI. But I kind of think about it from your perspective, Paul, and not only to mention all these people that aren't coming in, they call it the CES flu that they all leave with every year. So
Yep.
maybe that's a big portion of what we're all leaving with, is we're getting it from them, since it seems to be consecutive or almost, you know.
Yeah, they're right on top of each other.
Yeah.
There are folks
fact,
that go to both too.
My team and really when we look at the event, not having CES actually benefits Expo. We get, you know, the entire city's not overtaxed because they just had 150,000 people, you know, there. And so we'll see. We will make the best decision for the association and the members and the industry, because that's really what we serve. This has been great. I appreciate it. You know, we're all kind of watching this happen in real time, you know, as we're kind of going through it. I can remember back in February when this was a supply chain issue, you know, and it was something that kind of took our focus off tariffs for 5 minutes. And then it became a demand issue. And now it's like this global thing that has societal and political impacts to it. And we're all just going through it. But I'm going to leave you with my optimism for this. So in 9/11, right, we had the entire world became a society focused on eradicating global terrorism, right? And we had such a role to play in that, in the messaging that went out, and how companies, how everything from how you made a sales call to the things that you were giving people to get into a stadium. And like, we played a role in the rebuilding of something. I think coming out of this, we're going to be a society based on the eradication of global disease, pandemics. And I think we have a role to play. And I'm excited about that, because what we do is we affect behavior, right? So all of those different businesses that are out there trying to regrow their businesses, well, what behaviors do they want to affect? And that's where we have the opportunity to tell a story. You know, I'm in my office today here in Irving. I left the house. And when I left the house, I grabbed my keys, I grabbed my wallet, but I also grabbed a mask and hand sanitizers. We have a role in this.
Yep.
And I think that it's going to be painful, and it's going to be painful for a while. This isn't going to go away with the vaccine, but we're good at this. We've had a pandemic before in our industry. I mean, we've been around for 200 years. We've had pandemics, 2 world wars, bunch of recessions, Great Depression. You know, I think we're made for this. So it's going to be a little bit painful, but we're scrappy and we're entrepreneurial.
I think so as well.
There we go.
So Tony Letty says Vegas, baby. Susan Bolsky says hashtag Expo 2021 will be done. And then she says, thank you to PPAI for all that you guys are doing. So just wanted to give those folks a quick shout out. And then also, guys, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk to you a little bit more about Tervis. Obviously, they've made sustainability a huge thing for them. And so ultimately, you know, Take Your Tervis is the hashtag Take Your Tervis is another way that we can use social media to promote sustainability. They've got a 4Ocean partnership. Tervis is partnered with 4Oceans for a beach cleanup on Siesta Key, according to 4Ocean, which does cleanups year-round and across the world for their largest turnout with over 1,300 people registered. They were able to collect and count. They had 144 straws, 5,877 cigarettes that they cleaned up, 463 plastic bottles, 187 plastic cutlery, 355 plastic bags, 234 plastic foam cups, and over 1,300 bottle caps. So it's just amazing how much waste is out there. So Tervis is passionate about their oceans and their care about the creatures who call it home. They're committed to making it a better place and have been for 72 years, not because it's trendy or helps sell tumblers, but because it's the right thing to do. So guys, please check out tervispromos.com to learn more about them. And Paul, just want to say thank you so much for jumping on board with us today and just giving us a little bit of insight. And, I really appreciate you and everything that you guys have done at PPAI.
Well, I appreciate that. And everything that you said was just cleaned up. Sounds like my kitchen after my 16-year-old son has 4 friends over. The straws, the cutlery, everything.
That's my house in the morning.
That's right. That's right. So, and thanks for your sponsors for doing this too. I think it's great that we get to keep these things moving forward and keep some cohesiveness in our industry.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, I think that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Ciao, guys.
And we'll see you guys again soon.
See ya.